Today's AskReddit post. Serious, what conspiracy theory has a high chance of being true? Oh boy, this is gonna be a good one. Let's get started. That CIA or something similar asks these questions every month on Reddit to see if people have caught onto them. OP is a 12-day-old account. I think you might be onto them. You fool. The CIA has 70 alternative accounts. That Epstein didn't kill himself. The real conspiracy theory is that Epstein did kill himself. Who would have to conspire for him to kill himself? There's a very high chance that a nuclear test took place by Israel and South Africa in 1979 and that the United States covered it up for political reasons. It's also confirmed that we lost a nuke in a swamp and that old nuclear blueprints are out there. Trump didn't actually want to be president and was surprised that he won. I believe this. It's not even a secret that the main reason for running was because Obama made fun of him at the correspondents' dinner. Hadn't he been talking about running for president for quite a while though? There is a very real possibility that modern art is just a massive money laundering scheme for rich people. No, that's a fact. It's very easy to commission a well-known artist to paint you some poop for like $150k. Then get several of your art appraiser friends to agree that it's a masterpiece and worth $25 million. Donate it to a museum because you are so kind and enjoy a $25 million tax write-off. That the reason there are so many ridiculous and outlandish conspiracy theories is to discredit any potentially correct conspiracy theories. If the public at large ever does catch wind of a true cover-up that the government doesn't want us to know about, they can easily leak information that is true enough but with details that can be easily disproved. That way we will discredit the truth because of the attached lie. I remember watching a TV series where they did that. Can't remember which one, though. Since everyone in this thread apparently only knows the Epstein theory, I think the money laundering mattress firm theory is legitimate. I mean, why are there so many mattress firms and they're continuously empty? Something isn't adding up. The markup on mattresses is insane, like 300%. Combine that everyone needs one, even if they don't need new ones often. Low overhead. How many staff do you see inside one of those places at any one time? And that many of them work to upsell mattress covers, pillows, warranties. There's even a margin on delivery and removal, and it's really not a surprise. If the Illuminati exist, it most likely to be very rich people who are not widely known. So no celebrities or politicians. Faceless power with no consequences for the members. Don't remember who said it, but I heard a comedian recently say that there may not be the Illuminati per se, but these old rich dudes probably at least have a group chat or something. Can't believe nobody has said this already. I am somewhat suspicious of the Martin Luther King Jr. assassination. I remember reading that the FBI had credible evidence that MLK was going to be assassinated when and where he was, but they ignored it because MLK was a socialist and planned to continue the momentum of the civil rights movement into workers' rights and social democracy. The lottery is designed to catch time travelers. Love that, up pointing index. Toothpaste commercials use way too much, so we'll use a ton of it and have to buy more toothpaste more often. This isn't a conspiracy so much as a fact. That the CIA brought cocaine and crack into the US by the Contras. The US was flopping its dick all over the Nicaraguan government during the Nicaraguan Civil War. Basically, the CIA created the crack epidemic on purpose. This isn't a conspiracy. There is primary source information proving it's true. Edit. Conspiracy theory. I get it. Relax, y'all. Ask Gary Webb and his 2 to the back of the head suicide. That the term conspiracy theorist was coined by the CIA to make a mockery of people who put facts together out of loop of mainstream media to say what was happening behind the scenes. That turned into flat earthers, reptilian royals and whatever else falling under the same umbrella and skewering the public perception of theorists. Many theories proved true. CIA funneling drugs into the USA, but they fall under the umbrella as moon landing fake so people don't really pay attention. Doesn't help that a lot of the theories that are doing the rounds on social media these days are so obviously bullpoop. Flat Earth, anti-vax, 5G, COVID masks, etc. The 1975 dismissal of the then Australian Prime Minister, Gough Whitlam, by the Governor-General, was actually a British-American-backed CIA coup, in order to prevent the nationalisation of Australia's mining sector. That the CIA assassinated JFK. JFK was about to cut funding before he died, and then they covered up data about the assassination. Also, the CIA made the word conspiracy theory after he was killed. The theory I liked is that the bullet that killed JFK was accidentally fired by a Secret Service agent holding a rifle in a car behind. And it is that has been the subject of a massive cover-up. I like the theory that there was no shooter. His head just exploded. That most electronical devices with microphones are constantly listening and that data is being collected. In my class of cybersecurity, my teacher proved that they are actually listening. Your data is in fact being stored, but also being sold to third party. My teacher was an amazing guy and he wrote 2 books about some cyber stuff, so I do believe this is true. How did they prove it? A long time ago, I heard someone theorize about the private prison lobbies taking advantage of the opioid crisis as a means of keeping cells full, as well as their coffers, since more states have been legalizing marijuana. Now, after all these protests, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if they're putting more prepping a fresh round of incentives for prosecuting demonstrators on trumped up charges. That's not a conspiracy theory, that's prison corporations lobbying. The poopty surprise is that prison unions are also major lobbyists in favor of the war on drugs. I know unions can be a good thing, but law enforcement and prison unions are like the horror from hell. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were ordered to emancipate from the royal family to distract the world from the fact that Prince Andrew is a pedo. I read somewhere that it was more them wanting to get away from the family knowing already they were pedos and that they wanted to cut ties with them. And that Princess Diana wanted to expose the family first and that's why she was offed. Harry always struck me as the most normal royal, and then once the British tabloids started brutalizing his wife he just said, "Fuck this, I'm out." He never really revealed in the spotlight anyway. Good for them. Democrats and Republicans working together to spread propaganda that you can only be one of the other. Like, the idea that third parties are way too small to even have a chance of being elected for president or for Congress, and therefore should be ignored. It makes sense because no one wants to waste their vote, so they won't vote for third parties. Third parties then have no power. That means Democrats and Republicans don't have to compromise with each other because they only have one competition, which is with each other. It's also a big end result of first past the post voting. We need a different voting system to break their power block. The original Sonic movie design was a publicity stunt. Didn't they already make merch for the original design? I feel like they could have just not done the merch and saved money. They say they did, but couldn't they make that up just as easily as well? Certain governments are actively working against environmental legislation because their countries have access rights to resources buried under the Arctic that they want to exploit once the ice caps melt. Russia will have a poop ton of farmland once the permafrost in Siberia melts, not to mention all the best 22nd century ports. The USA government is funded by what amounts to a Ponzi scheme. 70% of the US debt is owed to its own citizens. We know there is no way to pay it all back. The reason we don't drastically reduce funding to the military is because it's our insurance against bankruptcy. As long as the military exists as it does, the USA can continue to borrow money without ever paying it back. Edit. I did not expect this to get so much attention. This is a gross oversimplification, and there are a number of people who probably know a lot more about economics than I do, refuting it. I strongly suggest you read said comments, do some research, and draw your own conclusions. If you're going to start a riot, make sure you're properly informed first. There's more to 9/11 than we will ever be told. Edit. More than mundane details. 9/11 and 911 US emergency number are the same number. Coincidence? Yes. And the supposed terrorist group never did plan date attack aside from this. How the hell has no one mentioned the Panama Papers in here yet? It's been 3 hours. Because they're busy saying Epstein and 9/11 over and over. Michael Jordan gambling retirement theory. Most likely NBA found Michael betting on games he shouldn't have. Would always be on himself. The guys who is massive. But any gambling by professional athletes related to their own team or sport will bring the game into disrepute. That said, I don't subscribe to the theory that his father's death was related to anything to do with MJ. 2-year suspension for gambling that the league allowed him to call a retirement. The Titanic didn't sink. The Olympic did. The story goes that after a disastrous maiden voyage of the Olympic, it would cost millions to repair in a time where $1 million was a lot of money. Its sister ship, Titanic, was still being built, so they hatched an insurance fraud scam. They swapped the nameplates between the two ships, labeled the Olympic as the Titanic, and set sail. They planned to take damage to the ship, have a nearby ship save everyone, collect the insurance money and party hard. Except there was a small boat illegally doing stuff in between the Titanic Olympic. So when the Titanic Olympic sent up flares for help, the other ship responded instead of the planned one, causing the messages to become confused. So the ship that was sent to save everyone was late and a lot of people died. Except insurance money is worth quite a lot less than the loss of reputation from having your unsinkable ship sink on its maiden voyage. The constant fireworks being set off every night for the past month in the US is to get the general public adjusted to the sounds of explosives artillery gunfire. Now that's interesting. It does seem like we're getting ready for Civil War, the sequel. So I can buy this. Civil War, Part 2: The Electric Boogaloo. JFK was assassinated by the CIA for wanting to disband them and end the Cold War. I heard JFK said he didn't like the military-industrial complex, and I was like, yep, that'll get you killed. Princess Diana assassination. John Mulaney did it. Yeah, but he was over on the bench. Probably that JFK wasn't assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald. Hitler didn't kill himself in World War II. Honestly, would it have made a difference? He was an extremely sick drug addict by 45 feet. He met with generals in late 44 to discuss the Ardennes offensive, and they were shocked at how old and wore out he looked. Meth will do that. This guy was so crazy about drugs that not only did he give his soldiers them, but 3 times a day he used eye drops loaded with coke. It's statistically impossible that aliens don't exist. I believe in aliens. I don't believe they visited us in spaceships. I'm the same. There's gonna be so much distance involved that even light speed communication is gonna be difficult. I think a lot of paranormal stuff is just people not accepting that a human mind is one of the most unreliable witnesses going. The lost cosmonauts. Subjects of a conspiracy theory alleging that Soviet cosmonauts went to outer space before Yuri Gagarin, but their existence has never been publicly acknowledged by either the Soviet or Russian space authorities. But why? Why wouldn't Russia want to show the world that they got to outer space first? Because the ones before Yuri didn't make it back to Earth alive. The border order to separate kids from their parents was to assist the powerful in their underage intercourse trafficking objectives. Didn't hundreds of kids go mysteriously missing when ICE took them from their families? I think somewhere between 2000 5000 kids went missing in the past few weeks. I really don't think Kurt Cobain committed suicide. The entire story always felt off to me. Not to mention some of the harrowing details I learned of later on that seemed way too suspicious. I'm not really sure if Courtney Love was involved, but I definitely feel like there was some foul play. He was definitely murdered. He had his lawyer write up a new will for him because he was about to divorce Courtney and he hadn't been able to sign it before he died. That 2020 was an asymmetric psyops attack on many levels. Hindsight is always 20/20. Everyone always joked that we'd have 2020 vision because 2020, but we didn't know that the year would ducking blindside everybody. I personally believe that Long John Silver's has some sort of conspiracy behind it. Have you ever seen any cars in one of their parking lots? Yet they stay in business. The CIA/FBI American administration knew about 9/11 and either let it happen or instigated it in order to further assert dominance in the world, especially the Middle East, especially when you consider the fact Israeli intelligence warned them ahead of time and they ignored it. That most of the issues we deal with is incompetence and greed in leadership. That's not a theory, that's a fact. I love this thread, but seriously, Epstein didn't kill himself. The same people moderate all the largest subreddits. The Mojsphere are really pretty creepy, to be honest. Not really creepy when you consider they're middle-aged fat men sitting behind computers 24/7. That this sub is run by bots, hence why this question gets posted every few days. It's a very good method for farming karma and making the bot account look legit. That our current president has dementia and his staff is covering it up. Wilson had a stroke. His wife ran the country for a year. A significant amount, not all of the property destruction and violence taking place in the recent protests is being instigated or committed by FBI agents provocateurs to discredit the movement. Wouldn't be the first time. It is much more likely that the movement is being hijacked by collectivists, socialists and anarchists to take advantage of societal turmoil to accomplish change they haven't been able to make politically or judicially. That Charles Manson was in cohorts with the CIA to test out experimental drugs to control people's minds and do what they're told, you may have meant in cahoots. The theory that these ridiculous prices paid for art is really a cover-up for money laundering. The Nixon administration spurred China to economically reform in an attempt to defeat communism. This eventually led to manufacturing and labor market growth in China, which has also created today's issue of them taking our jobs. The USS Liberty was intentionally sunk by Israel, with the intention of framing Egypt as the attacker in the hopes of the USA joining the war. The Liberty was not actually sunk. It was for sure attacked by Israel. The sailors who were on it were threatened with court-martial if they dared speak about it. There is a theory that the point of the attack was to allow the USS to attack Egypt like you said, but the attack was to be a nuclear strike. The nuclear part was due to Egypt being aligned with the Soviets, but I forget the finer details. Bro, you actually watched the whole video. I'd give you a high five if I was a human. Make sure to click the like button and subscribe for more great content. See you next time.